That is why I switched to viola.
We're glad you did. You're a tremendous violist.
I got the attitude for it.
Jamie, when did you switch from viola to percussion?
I actually switched from flute to percussion.
Ah!
Is it my lot in life to be surrounded by flute players?
Yes.
Hey everyone. Welcome back to OSA Backstage. I'm Dani Meyer. This is Hot Sauce. And on today's episode, Serena and I are talking to Erik Thorstensen, our Director of Digital Initiatives and Production, and Jamie Pham, our Artist Manager. If you watch the video, you'll notice the scenery is different. That's my office. I have moved things around and cleaned to make it look cleaner than it actually is. It was a delight. It's always a delight, I know, but these guys are great. They both are phenomenal musicians who decided to turn to arts admin. So Serena and I were really glad that they made time for us. And we talk everything from curling to unexpectedly, other duties as assigned and teaching you a lot about a job that you could do, competency, and the surprise upside to skipping a class in 7th grade. We're glad you're here. Enjoy.
There you go. Yeah.
Look at those Birkenstocks.
Yeah.
It's a
Summer.
It is, yes. Today, March 14 is it's the start of Nebraska summer. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Thanks for doing this. Would you please introduce yourselves?
Am I going first?
After you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jamie Pham. I'm the Artistic Manager of the Omaha Symphony.
And I am Erik Thorstensen, the Director of Digital Initiatives and Production.
That's it, right? That's the...
I black out every time I start saying the title, and I just hope I get through it.
It's so good. I want to circle back to that because you've worn so many hats for the symphony. But I want to start the way we always start. Do you remember your very first orchestra concert that you went to?
So I was trying to think back, and all I could think about were ballets. So I went to the ballet a lot with my godmother. So it was probably like Nutcracker or Swan Lake or something like that. But I'm pretty sure my first real orchestra concert was Rioton, which is hilarious. Yeah, I know.
You didn't say that to anybody when they were here.
Oh, I told them. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, all right. So explain who Rioton is and why we love them so much.
So Rioton is this a cappella group from Europe, and they put together these pop covers, and it's just this like really powerful experience just with their voice. And the arrangements are great for the orchestra, and it's a really good introduction for many people.
Because they were just with us a couple seasons ago singing ABBA.
Yes.
They were amazing.
Yes.
And they're coming back to sing the Bee Gees, and that was your...
Yes. I'm pretty sure the ABBA show was the first one. Yeah. So it was pretty fun. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
It's such a fun...
I'm pretty sure they're different people, though. Not all of them, but some numbers have changed. But
I don't know. People can stay in those groups for a long time.
I think some have. But yeah.
Okay, so possibly Nutcracker or Swan Lake or Rioton.
Yeah. I know.
Okay, Erik. You got to top that. So
well, I mean, being from Omaha, I'm fairly sure I came to some sort of CFY education program at Symphony, but I don't really remember. But I used to, in high school and late middle school, collect all my ticket stubs that I went to for concerts. And I recently, yesterday, in preparation for this, went through all my ticket stubs. And other than all the Fall Out Boy concerts I went to in 2006 and 2008, I went to a Omaha Symphony concert in February 2007 titled Beyond Our Universe. And I just checked the program. And it just so happens that they played The Planets. And I definitely remember going to this program because I remember it was sitting in the second tier. I do have an issue with Beyond Our Universe and the planets being
within the universe.
Yeah. The solar system. And the universe is kind of, you can't really get beyond to the universe. So whoever thought that up, I know that was before all of us.
That was, thank God. I don't know if I could live with myself with it. No, that's mean.
We're doing things differently this time around.
That's a much nicer way of saying
Things make sense artistically and titally wise.
I did just see on Reddit someone had there's a North American symphony that just ran an advertisement for the Rite of Spring, but instead of RITE, it's RIGHT,
Okay.
the Rite of Spring. So then
Days, you're right. Yes.
someone was wondering what's left of spring.
Yeah.
It happens.
Oh,
The
that
best
is
of
good.
And considering we're starting fake summer today and Serena's got her Birkenstocks on. It's like,
Yep.
what is left of spring? That makes me so happy, Eric. This is like what a full circle moment this is.
Yeah.
We actually made a joke in our pre-concert talk for Masterworks 4 about how like Elgar kind of giving you the world. And so I was kind of teeing up a joke that in Masterworks 4 we gave everybody the world, so in Masterworks 5 we're going to give everybody the stars as well, and I'm
Excellent.
glad I could see your face before I do that, just in case it's horrible, which...
No, they're going to love that.
Oh my god, okay. What a wonderful full circle moment.
Absolutely.
How about playing? Because one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with all of us together is because the staff has a really, like, I don't think there are very many people on this staff who went into arts administration from go. We have a lot of theater people, we have a lot of like, you have a lot of academic backgrounds that are music adjacent, but we all have multiple degrees, and the three of us especially decided to take music performance degrees and translate them into something else. But we all went to conservatory. So what was the first concerts that you played? Eric, you gotta go first.
I'll go first. Okay. I feel like my brain was still developing so much when I was playing all these, like, coming through OAYO, youth orchestras, and playing these like arrangements of these larger pieces, but like the legitimate, I think the first like program I played that I remember playing, that I can recall the best is like the all-state orchestra concerts that I did. First on violin, which was a huge mistake on a lot of levels, but
You were too big.
yeah, too big of a personality. Then when I switched to viola, for my junior and senior year, played those concerts, but like playing Capriccio at Espanol on violin, and then again circling back to the planets, when I switched to viola, we did Mars and Jupiter. So everything is the planets.
Eric Thorstensen, the planets.
It is my life now, and I don't do anything else.
We're just gonna pigeonhole you. Only this. And you, okay, so you, what made you switch to viola before we?
I don't have an answer for this. I was. Well, I started violin lessons with Thomas Klug, our principal violist, when I was my first teacher in fourth, fifth grade, and then I.
And you didn't hear that wrong. This Thomas Klug also plays with violin.
Correct. Yes. At the time, he had a studio at the conservatory, and I eventually switched on over to Anne Goski, who is also one of our fantastic violinists, and I think she pressured me into it. Honestly, no, I'm kidding. She suggested it halfway through high school, probably because of my abilities on violin. I don't know. Or lack thereof. But also my size. I'm a larger person, so maybe she thought I'd make a good violist, and I think it was a good decision. And I went from there. So that is why I switched to viola.
We're glad you did. You're a tremendous violist.
I got the attitude for it.
Jamie, when did you switch from viola to percussion?
I actually switched from flute to percussion.
Ah!
Is it my lot in life to be surrounded by flute players?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you started on flute. Flute was your very first instrument.
Yeah, that was my first instrument, and like when we joined band. And so I wanted to play the tuba, but it was too big, and my dad was like, "You can't walk home with that." So he was like, "Pick something smaller that you can fit in your backpack."
Pick the small list.
So I did, and I was like determined to be the best flute player. And then I wanted to skip class one day and audition for percussion, and ended up being really good at it, so I switched.
Wait. So the opportunity came up where you could miss class, but only if you auditioned for the percussion?
Yeah. So between 7th and 8th grade, you could audition to switch to like percussion, saxophone, bassoon, like all of the other instruments. And it was during like another class, so I didn't want to go to that class. So
How did you audition for
Yes.
percussion?
You like go in and they're like, okay, can you just like play this thing on snare drum and then play this thing on bells?
Having not played
anything, and I played everything fine.
What?
They were like, okay, yeah, great, sure, you should switch.
rhythm.
So
The only part of that makes sense to me is that the other instruments have taught you how to read music,
right.
so that you can like go into like, but you know, bassoon. I don't know how I feel about saxophone being an instrument that you could switch to, because I
It's
feel
like clarinet, you would switch to saxophone.
Okay.
Like they don't want all the kids to start on saxophone.
Okay.
They're like, start on something.
Slightly less dangerous.
Sanity.
Yeah. We don't need 20 saxophones in band. So, yeah. So that's what I did, and I switched to percussion.
As an adult trying to learn how to play drums, that seems impossible.
Like
to
a
me.
drum set.
Yeah. No, this is.
Well, the trick is you gotta switch. You just gotta go like that. That's it.
And
You don't go like this. You go like this.
Everything's fine. That's amazing. And then, see, that was before 8th grade?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you immediately took off with that,
Yes.
and you ended up taking, how many degrees do you have in percussion performance?
So I have a bachelor's, a post-baccalaureate, and a master's.
Yep.
Yep.
So you're very good at percussion.
I mean, I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay.
You two have gotten to this place where you still play with the orchestra despite being full-time staff, and I love that that's something that you still make sure that you can maintain and hop in on, because it's invaluable to have people who understand the orchestra on both sides. Like Maurice Cohn, when he was here, was talking about like the second orchestra, which is the staff that makes everything possible. But you guys can cross into that other role at any time, which I love. With enough 4 hours
notice.
advance. I mean, you both, Jamie, you sub in for things like Concerts for Youth quite a bit, and yeah. What do you do when you get called in? Because at least with viola, just like, okay, so there's one viola part. Like, it's not as if you could have a rotating group of 6 different viola parts. Do you ever talk to the to Paul or whoever's playing principal? It's like, here's what I'm comfortable doing, or do you just kind of take whatever they need?
I mean, I think with the principals here, I have like a relationship with them, so they know like what I'm comfortable with, and it's what they're comfortable too, like assigning to me and whoever's on their roster. So at the end of the day, I kind of just have to play what they tell me to play, and hope it works out. So it's usually fine.
It's the same confidence that a 7th grader has walking into the percussion.
Yeah, I mean, it'll work out. Just hitting things. It's fine.
What was your first orchestra concert as a percussionist?
So my first orchestral experience, because we didn't have an orchestra program in school, was Shasti Festive Overture. I went in as a high school guest. The orchestra came and played at my high school, and I was their single guest person that played from the high school. There was a little bit of drama because they sent me the wrong part to learn and play, and then I showed up and there was like some confusion. So that was fun to figure out on the fly, but it all worked out and it was fine, and the orchestra was very kind about it in the end.
What you say part mix up? Was it like you thought you were playing bass drum and you ended up?
Yeah, and then I was like given a triangle or something. Yeah.
This isn't a bass drum.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't learn this part. I'm in high school. What do you want me to do? Right. Yeah. So that was a fun time. That was the first time where you need to learn all the parts and just be ready to play everything. And then first time playing in like orchestra professionally, it was Reveltis La Noche de Mayas, and that was nice and scary because there's like 12 percussionists and I had to play like shakers and maracas and as a college student in front of a professional orchestra. So
What orchestra was that with?
with Winnipeg. Yeah. So that was really cool, and it was a really good experience, and it was, had to get a union card and all that and be so ready to play my part, and I don't know, it was a lot, but it definitely got me excited to do it all.
Love that.
Yeah.
There's something I also had to get a union card for my first sub gig, and there's something really official about having that, like okay, you can hire me whenever you want.
Yeah.
As if like that's the only thing stopping me.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love everything about those answers, primarily because you both jumped into this side of things so readily. But I'm curious when it's the same confidence as a 7th grader auditioning for percussion, right? But it's translated into, I didn't go to school for this, but I think I can figure out how to do it. When did you start thinking about the admin side?
Sure, yeah. So for me, like, I don't think that not a lot of people go to school. Like, you've been playing music growing up, and you go to school for music. You want to be a soloist, maybe, and then we quickly learn that that's maybe not going to happen.
You never want to be solo percussionist.
Okay. For strings, I don't know. But then it's like, okay, I want to get an orchestra job, but so, there are a lot of people that go to school for music that end up not doing anything to do with music. But I was fortunate to have the opportunity to do some part-time work in some festivals, some summer festivals, and Indiana, Jacob School, and that were more administrative, and I just kind of was good at it. I was like organized. We'll talk about organization later, I'm sure, but being organized is like
Half the battle.
Is at least half the battle, because I don't know, competence is very important on this side of things, and an understanding of how things work on the musical end of things goes a long way. So started doing some part-time jobs administratively, and then when I moved back here to Omaha after grad school, won an auxiliary position with the symphony, and that at the time, it's only a part-time playing contract, so had to fill the hours somehow, and got into personnel management, which is
that takes a specific kind of person to be a great personnel manager.
It absolutely does. And I respect those people for doing that job immensely.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't really for me. So I was fortunate that at the time, Jen Kreitz, who was our director of operations, took the chance of hiring me as an operations manager when that need arose.
Close enough.
Close enough. Music degrees. So yeah, I operations manager, and then things just started to snowball from there. So
You talked about competency. So I so often being competent is really just being prepared.
mm-hmm.
I think that's a big lesson we learn in school immediately. It's like talent takes you so far, but if you don't put in the work,
Yeah.
if you don't prepare, then you're going to fall flat on your face almost every time. So I like that idea that you found something that you could be good at, but with time and effort in the position, like you could be competent at it because you knew how to prepare for it.
Yeah.
And there's a section of the orchestra that I think is so diligent about prep, and that's definitely the percussion section.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know, like in all seriousness, there's no other section of the orchestra that has to look at things like a battle plan for every single concert that we do. Do you think that are you a naturally organized person, Jamie, or does being a percussionist?
Yeah, which came first?
I mean, I think being organized came first. So I think it just translated into percussion. I think it's definitely something that if you had to do any sort of percussion ensemble setup or any sort of percussion setup in college, you kind of just had to learn very quickly, like, this is what is needed. We're talking about our time in college and getting up at 6 a.m. to set up for a percussion ensemble because that happened to be at 8 a.m. and we needed to move everything from the percussion studio to the hall, and you just need to prep that time, and that just translates into professional life. Even though once you become a professional, there's a crew and your stage manager that helps with moving all that stuff. You still need to prep them to know what needs to be on stage. So it helps everyone for you to be organized, so that you show up knowing what you're doing. Like it sucks to show up to work and have something missing because you didn't put it on the thing, and like the stage manager didn't put it on the stage, like because of that. So it all kind of dwindles down to like how well you prepped at the beginning. So
So would you say that was like your first backstage experience?
Yeah, like at Carnegie Mellon, we had to like do a lot of backstage prep on our own. Like I had to coordinate the percussion moves and from one venue to another. Working with a professional crew, I think would have to be through Carnegie Mellon. We went to Carnegie Hall, and that was like the first time I was like yelled at for moving a stand, because I didn't know like that's what union crews were for. And so it kind of brings everything into perspective, like this is what you are trained to do and proud to do. Doing the production side of things, like my first backstage experience was definitely here for sure. But then before that, I dabbled in like sports logistics, which is kind of how I figured out I would be good at organizing production side of things. So that's why I started doing things more seriously. Yes.
What?
Who, what, when, where, why?
It was curling.
Curling? No, it was never curling.
You just picked the most Canadian sport.
I was just gonna say, like, it was never, but could have been.
It could have been.
Curling seems like a very organized sport. Very strategic.
Oh. Yeah.
It is. It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And one shoe is slippery and the other shoe is not. So anyways.
Pin in that. Who, what, when, where, why?
So I did this, so in Canada, there's this Canada Summer Games, Canada Winter Games for like youth. So it's basically like youth Olympics for provinces. So each province has a team, and they send their team to like this place, and they all compete against all these sports. And then, and so they had this artistic program. So I went as an artist as part of this collaborative program. And then after I did that, they brought me back as like a coordinator. So I would go and coordinate the artists, and then one year they didn't have the artist program, so they were like, well, you can coordinate these sports, like one of the couple of sports teams. So one year I did tennis and rowing, and I know nothing about those sports, so it was fun to figure that out and figure out their logistics.
Couldn't be more different from each other.
Yeah, no. But like 1 week was curling, or 1 week was curling. 1 week was rowing and 1 week was tennis. So it was just like, you know, you had to figure that out. So.
Did you, okay, so as part of coordinating, were you dealing with personalities?
Oh yeah, like coaches, athletes, and like new people at the venues and the cities, and trying to figure out how transportation was working. And
was this part of your interview, like here?
I don't remember hearing about this at all.
I don't know.
It's the same job.
Yeah, it's very similar. So,
This is
just
amazing.
but just different. You know, what's the word?
It's a different arena, but it's
Yeah.
what are the personality side of it, because your job now is to primarily take care of all the things that an artist doesn't want to have to think about,
Mhm.
so that they can just show up and play or conduct or sing,
Yep.
whatever they need to do. Does it feel like it sounds like you already had a really solid background in taking care of smoothing things out like that?
I mean, it started in college. I wouldn't say I had figured it out as a 20-something-year-old, but you know, over time, I think I've learned how to read people and adapt to different personalities. And like I tell some people, it's just read the room and read their vibe and almost match it to make them as most comfortable as possible. And because at least for me, I wouldn't want someone coming in like hot and like high energy. Like I'm pretty mellow and chill, and I need someone to just like simmer and take it down a notch before I like can meet them up there. Especially if I'm in like a new space. Like I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. Like take a chill pill. Like
Which is the last thing you can tell a person who's
he's trying to welcome you and like
take a chill pill.
yeah, like yeah. So avoid that and just start there.
Oh my god. I had no idea. This is why we do this. So I can learn all these things. So we can learn all these things. Similarly, at what point did audio and digital editing come into even like show up on the peripheral of what you knew? Because a lot of what you do now, I know that your musical background makes it easier to start. You still had to learn. It's not like learning, it's not like a degree in viola performance teaches you how to score study for video, but at least you know how to read a score.
Right.
At what point though did digital even like?
Well, I mean, so producing and directing all the captures now and the broadcasts and the things. I kind of realized that every 2 years here, I've kind of gone into a different role, like assistant personnel manager, like a year and a half, ops manager for 2 years, and then straddling ops and digital, and then now just digital. It's been like 2 years, so I don't know what's next, but we'll see.
Get a little bit time.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But the shift to digital, happened in 2020 when we had to find new ways to reach audiences and further our mission as an organization educationally and expanding audiences. And so when I don't even I struggle to remember how I kind of fell backwards into this, but I think I may have been the only one on staff that had the time to actually look at the scores and like wait a second, let's do this. Let's think about this more, because we were bringing in people, contractors, third-party people to produce these things for us, like the Christmas broadcast in 2020. And the intention was to kind of always figure out how to do it ourselves, so we didn't have to, so that we could more strategically spend that money, because it's cheaper to just do it in-house and not bring in vendors. So at this point, I've completely lost where the question was, but
so other duties as assigned.
Yeah,
Basically
you got to have that attitude, and I was always wanting to grow and learn how to do new things, and now I'm in this role. I don't have the audio, the digital, the video experience going into it, and I've had to learn how to do a lot of these things. I think a lot of the things that I do, I just have like a natural sense of what looks good, because ultimately the orchestra is they're the product, and they're the music is the script, they're the actors, and I just need to figure out how can I translate that to make it look good. And it's just legit, like it's very much logistics, knowing what we have in terms of cameras and what can go where, and point those cameras at who, when, and why.
So did you learn this through like trial and error, or through the people that were there? Did you kind of ask them questions, or was this one of those like Skillshare online course?
No, so it's all the above. The director we brought in for the 2020 Christmas, he has worked with all the major orchestras doing similar things, and there's definitely a process in which you script these captures, because you can't just set it. I mean, you can, but you can just set up cameras and tell people to just kind of point at things that are happening, but that's not that you miss things. It can be interesting, but
it's not as polished.
Yeah, it doesn't look as polished. So kind of getting the language, the lay of the land, the vernacular of how all that comes together. So I adopted that into the way, like what I'm finding is every orchestra kind of does it differently. Since we have a 3-person digital team, I have to figure out how to use the 3 of us in the most efficient way. And so, but that's not necessarily what it's like for another orchestra. Other orchestras might have larger budgets, the ability to bring in more people, more cameramen, and just do it on a slightly different scale. So, learning how he did it, the director, and shadowing others. I was fortunate to be able to go up to New York to see how one of the assistant directors did it for our 2021 Christmas show that we bring it in, help them prep. And then the training wheels came off after that Christmas show, and we just started recording things. But putting the cameras in our concert hall, it was trial and error. Like, if I put a camera here, can I see the basses? Maybe, but I can't see bassoons or something. So just figuring out where to put the cameras in the best locations for the widest coverage. But then, it's starting to kind of it's definitely a routine now, and I want to make things more interesting. And so it's figuring out where those changes can be made. Like, can I put a camera next to the woodwinds, and like, what do I lose in coverage wise if I just put a camera right next to oboe and flute and shoot down the line? I can't then see timpani well. It's all a blast.
If you don't mind sharing, what was the best error from the trial and error? Did it come after you started directing on your own, or was it during the kind of training wheels period?
The best error? Well, I mean, a lot of things happen by accident. Like some shows I overscript, like we do pops recordings, we do classical recordings. The pops recordings are pretty easy. You got a downstage, vocalists, band members, and then the orchestra's doing things. But it has always been like part of my mission to include the orchestra. Like when we do those pops recordings, we include the orchestra as much as possible, because really, it's an orchestra show. We gotta show the orchestra off as much as we can. But like learning how to do that, that doesn't take away from the vocalists in any way. But kind of some of the best shots happen when I just let things just not unravel, but unfurl on their own.
When you don't try to control it as much.
Yeah, like I put a camera in an interesting location for a pop show, and I learn like, then I can get this really terrific angle of such and so. Such and so.
So your experiments have generally turned out well in terms of like something exciting.
Yeah. There hasn't been any catastrophic. There was when we did. It's always bad when, like, it's technology, it's hardware. Things can happen. Things can go wrong. And when I script, like especially for a classical show, when I script. Like 6 robotic cameras, they all have a mission. They're all looking at something. But if you take one out of the equation unexpectedly, it can be kind of catastrophic is probably a little harsh, but like it goes against everything I've spent weeks planning for, and it's hard to get over sometimes. Like we did the Martin Kennedy violin concerto. I think we recorded that for release on the Violin Channel later, and for whatever reason, one of the decks, I call them decks, they're the what records each camera in isolation. One of the decks did not record, so we could not go back and edit it with as much content as I wanted to, and it kind of people watched it and they're like, oh, it's good, it's fine. But to me, like, it could have been a lot better, and so I've learned some hard lessons that way. But
I mean, sometimes even people, though, hardware is obviously one thing you can't control, but even people,
I was just going to ask, what has been the most stressful people-related kind of situation? Is it stressful when flights are delayed, or is it kind of stressful when, like what situations are difficult to handle? Or
we can actually loop back to Rioton for a really good example of this.
Sure, yeah. So Rioton, they had some pretty terrible weather delays with their travel, and they were flying from Europe and connected in Texas, and there was some weather in Texas, and so they couldn't fly out of Texas, and ended up having to fly to Kansas City the next morning and then drive up to Omaha, and then basically rushed to rehearsal that afternoon. So that was fun. Thankfully they have a tour manager, and I didn't have to deal with any of that. Otherwise I would have had to somehow reroute like 8 people who like don't speak English as their primary language, I'm sure. And it was just, in those cases I was very thankful they have a tour manager. We've had people like fly to Lincoln, which is like the neighboring city, and I've had to go pick them up there.
Wow.
So that's like an hour drive out and back. But generally it's a lot. I probably stress myself out more just in preparation than anything, and then it ends up being fine.
Because of that preparation.
I mean, I think the best compliment that we can get, that I get, is just like, oh, you made it so easy.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, that's Jamie.
That's Jamie.
I feel like what you've done is you've established this environment where the moment that person is within our charge, whether they're on their way to the airport where they're going to come to us, it's like you're making sure they just don't have to think.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the most stressful parts of our job is what you have done literally everything to make sure they don't have to worry about it and something still goes
Yeah.
awry.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to hide anything from an artist? Like something might be happening, but you're kind of like, well, this is, you kind of have to put on this sense of.
I don't know. Have we ever had to hide anything? We've had tornadoes.
Yeah. Tornadoes, I can't hide.
No, we have to hide.
We have to hide.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like in most cases, like, transparency is usually the best way to deal with things.
The brave faces.
If it's like, a fan or something like that, then I'll like put up the front and like hand them the thing after, but it's never anything violent or anything I have to like
No.
hide.
No, it's more like, I think there have been requests over the years that definitely fall under the other duties as assigned things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we've had wardrobe moments that were definitely like, oh, you need your pants have split, your shirt is not functioning the way it should function, and we're gonna gaff tape it. Like,
Yeah, I don't really think about those anymore. I've just like seen enough naked bodies. I don't care.
which we all anticipated. We were getting our degrees of conservatory.
It's like, yes, I have had to tape and pin enough things that it doesn't matter.
Then it seems like,
We all
I
have
guess,
bodies.
right,
It's fine.
instead of hiding, you just handle stressful situations in a calm manner that it just, you say, I know I have the confidence, I can handle this.
Yeah,
We can handle this.
it's always worse when you start panicking about it. And so you're just like, oh, okay, that's what you want? Sure. Okay. And then you just deal with it and then think about it later.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that ended up in like policy change for us, or like, because I know, okay, so for example, we have the artistic bag, which used to be the artistic cart, just now the bag, and it has everything in it from.
It's a sturdy bag.
It's a very sturdy bag. It's quite heavy at points. It's got snacks. It's got water. It's got like medicine and Band-Aids and hair products, and because you just never know. I think those are the things that we've learned, that when we don't have a thing, someone is inevitably going to ask for
Pepto-Bismol.
I have that in the bag.
It's like Mary Poppins bag.
It kind of is.
We do have sugar in that bag. Not a spoonful. A spoon would be unhygienic, but we do have sugar
Just
in that bag.
loose.
Yeah.
Just loose.
Just sugar on the bottom.
A loose spoonful of sugar.
It's in a bag.
It's on a bag.
Zippy.
Yeah, I feel like that's what we've taken away, is that the moment someone asks for something, you make sure that we have that forever
Yeah, basically.
going forward.
Like, okay, I wasn't prepared this one time. I will be prepared forever now. Yes.
Right, you learn, it's almost like happy mistakes. Like, oh, thank God you pointed this out when it wasn't an emergency, it was just a request.
Yeah.
We had, maybe we've been lucky, I'm gonna knock on wood. It's like, if we had an emergency, fake wood, I'm gonna knock on fake wood. I don't think we've ever had anything that totally derailed us, which is how it should be.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Do you feel like you are really good at channeling that inner calm? Have you worked on that? Jamie, have you always been this way, or have you like accumulated calm over your years doing this?
I don't think I've always been that way. Definitely have to like practice it. But I also think I'm like part robot at this point. And like, you just you turn off like the emotional part of it to a degree. Not so much like you don't care, but you don't take it personally.
Don't let it bother you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it came naturally. I definitely was like freaked out at first. First time I had to like, work with Wayne Brady or someone knows, and I was like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do with this person? And then it just turns out they're a normal person. So it's like, okay, fine.
Right.
Like this is fine.
Yeah.
We're gonna be fine.
That's always a good moment to have. It's always nice when it's Wayne Brady that you're having that moment with. Erik, do you ever get to turn yourself off? Because, when Serena and I talk about score study or music study, I get the impression that it sticks with you for a really long time. And what we're about to see with the planets and what you've done with all the IMAGing, so the close-up shots of the soloist or the orchestra or all the capture, you're living with these scores for a long time. How do you get to turn yourself off, and how do you turn yourself off?
Good question.
Yeah. I ever since it's 2020, we were a different organization 5 years ago, and the things we did, make it sound like it's something weird, but it was a smaller team. We had more kind of we had to be able to be very flexible, and it often came with just a sense of exhaustion. And so we've been, as an organization, I think we've done very well with in growth in that way. And personally, I've had to kind of work more on like separating that work-life balance. And part of that is trying to yes, I spend a lot of time with these scores in preparation. My Spotify Wrapped each year, it always reflects my work, and I hate
It's
that.
just
I know
Mars.
exactly what
It's
you mean.
yeah.
Exactly what you mean. Well, when you have one thing that lets you play without commercials or ads, you're gonna need
But aside from the work-life balance, it's part of the job. I think is just you got to immerse yourself in this stuff, and if it's like a pops recording, I'm listening to the same 3-minute song over and over and over again. So I will be humming things forever. But luckily we do record things at a clip that is quick enough that I'm able to shift and do things. The Planets has been a project that has gone for almost 1 year. It's been 11 months since I was working on it. So it is when pops SZA has the Saturn, that song would come on. It had nothing to do with the planets, but I would turn it off on the radio because I didn't want to hear anything about the planets. Love the song, but anyways, yeah.
No, but I get that. You've immersed yourself to the point where you can't touch it for a long time. But this is
I'm not. I know that a lot of people listen to I know you for enjoyment listen to a lot of classical music. I will stay away from it for a lot. I'm always very open to listening to new things, and I always find ways to enjoy the things that we have to work. I don't think we've ever recorded something here that I'm just I don't like this piece. I find a way to like it all.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a higher level of investment? If you were playing viola for the Planets versus having done this work, but someone was still presenting this work, an alternate you, do you think there's a higher level of investment in knowing that your baby, your translation essentially of this piece is what we're all seeing?
Yeah.
How's that feel?
Well, the Are you asking like if someone
like I take a lot of pride and joy being on stage, but anything I've ever created, like putting it out into the world, is a much more vulnerable place to be. But the reward, the payoff for that, is also infinitely can be.
It's a different kind of like I through the projects that I've worked on and like when we put together a broadcast, we spend so much time with it that like fine-tuning things, perfecting things as best we can. By the end of it, I'm just ready to move on. And I don't always at the start of it, I was like so like happy, like here, watch this broadcast, we built this, blah blah blah. But now it's like it's exhausting, and it's fun to see. Like I'll watch draft after draft after draft. It's like getting burnt out on it, but I want it to be as good as possible.
Is there a relief to having it be done? Actually, it's a question for all three of you. Is there a relief to having, when you have like a mega project, to just like, yes, I enjoyed it, yes, I loved it, but just to have it being done?
I mean, yeah. For me, usually I'm already on to like the next thing, so it doesn't feel like anything's done.
That's true.
Yeah. So it is nice to have like the control, like start to finish for something. But it is almost like anticlimactic when it's like, oh, it's over, but like we're on to the next thing.
Yeah. Like the planets in the course of our season is 1 week of prep, 2 concerts. And I did the math on it for hours worked, and it's a lot of hours that I spent doing this. And but it'll be done, and we're hoping to, share it and have other orchestras perform it, which would be cool. But like I don't think I'll ever be like happy with it. Like I was satisfied with it, and I keep going back through and watching. I'm like, I need to change this. So I don't know.
I was supposed to do the playback for it.
She was, yeah.
You didn't trust me.
I did.
So now you took it back.
That's a very musician thing.
So can you read music?
That's not true. That's not what happened.
How about you?
I think I really understand the anticlimactic part of it, especially also with score study. Like you're spending so much time in preparation. Also, as an assistant conductor, like spending the time to fully do the concert, but then not do the concert.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of that, like, well, okay, on to the next thing, because the very next day, maybe you are doing a completely different show or concert. So yeah, the job just keeps on going.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel anticlimactic. It does feel like you look at the hours put into it and then it just is there. But there is, for me, I just have to remember sometimes the joy of the preparation, and like I enjoy this score study and working on planets for that long, and then when it's over, it's just like, well, then I'll look forward to the next time I do it.
And we had a big discussion the orchestra did a couple of years ago about enhancing something versus distracting, and I think all three of you do such a tremendous job of making sure that at every concert that happens, it is enhanced by your work, whether or not you are physically on stage. That concert happens better because of the work that you put into it. It's almost or like a piano page turner, right? Like a page turner can only make the pianist's job easier, but they cannot
They can also make it more difficult.
They can also make it more difficult.
I have done that before.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like if you do your job well, no one really notices
Yeah.
you're there, but you've made it possible.
Yeah.
And I absolutely think that's the three of you.
There's personal satisfaction in that, for sure. There is a little bit
Yeah.
of, it's successful and you'd kind of just do a mental like, yes. And then next, you know, what's the next fire to put out?
Yeah, which is maybe why musicians do well in admin roles, because you never really, in music school or anything beyond, you don't really get to like, oh, I finally played this Bach suite. I'm done. That's never once happened.
Actually, to kind of dispel a myth too, I don't know, like at the end when everyone's standing for applause, I don't feel like that's the point of enjoyment or satisfaction of it being finished. It really isn't until you're really backstage and away from public kind of before it feels like the end of a project or end of a concert. You know what I mean? Like it might feel like, okay, well here now's the time to kind of think about the job well done, but I don't. Yeah,
it's a mutual thank you. Like
it is a mutual thank you. You still feel like that's part of the performance. Like thank you for being here, thank you. But it's, you know, the personal satisfaction I feel like comes when you're home and then you sit there and then you're like, okay,
yeah,
you know,
There's a lot of truth in that. Like you finally sit down on the couch and you can let it kind of let it go, or you could talk about it endlessly with your spouse. So to close, we've been asking people what instruments they would love to play, but you guys have done so much on and off stage. If you just had 30 minutes of no consequence, any role at the symphony, whether it's an instrument on stage, conducting, like Debo, you know, what's something you would want to try? No consequences.
I mean, instrument, I would want to just go ham on like an accordion on stage right now.
Really?
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah. With our Celtic show, it's just like kind of bringing that up. And my 2-year-old has like a tiny little accordion, which is like pretty awesome. So I would want to do that. I don't know if I'd want to do anyone else's job. That doesn't sound like
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have like the most fun job.
I'm glad you think that way.
I don't know. I
hope we all think that way, you know?
I don't know. I just get to hang out with like the artists, and most of the time they're chilled. So yeah.
John, having edited some of these pop shows, I think drum set, like in a pop setting, would be a lot of fun. Because I mean, Derek Dreyer, who does a lot of our pops drum kit shows, he looks like he's having a blast, and I just want to do that.
It's pretty fun. Come to my basement.
I think we all should go to Jamie's basement. Guys, thank you so much. It was awesome.
Thanks.
Awesome to have you.
Off to Jamie's basement.
Let's go.
Cut there.
Bye.